Hi, my name's AudreyGale and I do art. Today I'm going to be talking about how to paint faster. This has been a constant struggle for me as an artist. I have been drawing and painting for about 10 years now. For the first several years of that, was notoriously very slow. I was too focused on just the details that didn't matter. It would take up such a large portion of my time. It would take me 20 or 30 hours to draw something or paint something when it just simply didn't have to take that long. I've definitely improved on this in the last couple of years as I've started just making more art, but what has really helped me in particular was this book. This is probably my favorite art book just overall. It's called Read This If You Want to Be Great at Painting by Selwyn Leamy. It's a great overall book for, I would say, beginner to slightly experienced artists. It's got some great subjects like tools, techniques, things like composition and form, just kind of like your basic art concepts, color theory. When I read this book, it really helped me understand concepts of painting and concepts of artwork that would help me create paintings faster without losing quality. So I've gone through this book again and I have highlighted the important concepts that has helped me so that I can share it with you and hopefully you get something from this. First, simplify your art by painting on a colored surface instead of a white one. This will help you establish a mid-tone from the get-go, so that way you can easily build up your lights and your darks. I typically used to start out with a white. Now sometimes I do, but most of the time I will use a mid-tone. Even if it's not included in the painting at all, it really does help you establish that light to dark value. See your subject as simple shapes and is it light, is it dark? Where does it lie on that scale? So you really shouldn't be seeing like a car. You should be seeing like maybe a rectangle and round circular wheels and the license plate's a rectangle. It really helps simplify what you're painting. It's really about painting what you see, not, oh, I have to draw this Ford Bronco. That's not really what it's about. What is it about the Ford Bronco that you can break down to create that piece of art? It doesn't have to be that complicated. The shape of a Ford Bronco is much more complicated than the shapes that make up a Ford Bronco. Use bigger brushes and bolder markings. I was definitely notorious for using brushes that are way too small for what I'm creating. Not every single detail on a painting has to be precise. You can get that same point across by using simpler, bigger, bolder markings for really the majority of your painting. Most of the time, it kind of depends on what you're painting, but the whole thing certainly should not be detailed. So this book has an entire chapter on how to simplify your painting process. And this is what really stood out to me. The author says, don't copy the reference exactly, but be informed by it. You don't have to take anything literally. Now, if you're doing hyperrealism, that's different. Everybody else, you don't have to create exactly what you see on that piece of paper. I would get so stuck on this and think when I was doing all these pet portraits, like I had to have every single hair in place, and that's simply not the case. You can still get your subject across and you can still get your main point across without getting so literal about the details, without spending a ridiculous, unnecessary amount of time on like fur placement, for example. To that point, he says to skip excessive detail. You don't need this to get your subjects across in most circumstances. He says when in doubt, leave it out. He also emphasizes that too many details can actually be overwhelming for the audience. It's better to just focus on what's most important about that painting, do the details there. The rest of it can be a lot more freehand, and you can use your creative freedom to kind of fill in that blank. For example, think about what a busy street may look like. When you're walking down a busy street, and maybe later that day you think back of you being on that busy street, you don't remember every single car, the type, the color, the make that was on that street. You don't remember the 100 people you might have passed on that street. What you remember is there were some tall buildings, there were maybe 10 cars, there were 100 people on the sidewalk, and that's how most people remember things. They don't remember all of these minute details. So when people are looking at paintings, they don't always need those minute details. It's better to just get your main point across than to draw 100 people all looking photorealistic, all with very outstanding characteristics. Another tip that he gives is to resist the urge to go back and tweak over and over again. Chances are it looks fine the way it is the first or second time, and it's unnecessary and a waste of time to go back and redo, and well, I'm just gonna fix this little bit again. You end up spending too much time on the things that don't matter instead of stepping back and just looking at the artwork as a whole. Exaggerate the important parts and simplify the less important parts. For example, I have drawn hundreds of dogs. Those have been my main subject for the past 10 years. What's most important in a pet portrait, or a human portrait even, is details of the face. Eyes, nose, mouth. But the dogs, like non-specific, like chest fur, ear fur, neck, paws, these are not things that really stand out on most animals. Now, if they have a very specific marking, that's different. But if you're just talking about, 99% of dogs that just kind of all look the same, it's most important to focus on the things that really make up the animal, that really make up the pet. When you focus on things like the eyes, nose, mouth, those important facial features, that's when you're really gonna get that dog's personality across, that human's personality across, versus spending, an extra hour and a half trying to get the ear just right. And my last tip for how to paint faster is to set specific deadlines. The painting process, in theory, can just go on and on and on. It doesn't always have a set ending. So therefore you can go back and add things and tweak things. But if you set yourself a deadline, then it limits you in a good way to say, okay, I've got to stop this. It's done. It looks good how it is. Sure, I could go back and add something and that might look good too, but you don't have to. Because in theory, if you don't set any sort of deadline, it's kind of like, well, I could just forever add to this painting, and nobody's got time for that. Thank you for watching my video today. I hope that you learned something from it. It's definitely helped me become more efficient with my time in art. I'm going to be leaving a link to this book below. I definitely recommend it, whether you're a beginner or you have some experience in art. It's just an all-around good read for how to paint. If you found this video helpful at all, please give it a like. I post art tutorials like this on my channel, and I post a video every week. If you have any other tips about how to paint more efficiently with your time, please leave it down in the comments below because I'd love to hear your pointers. Thanks for watching this video. Bye.